Arjun Malhotra and Emily Carter seemed like the perfect couple, one a wealthy resort owner in Bora Bora, the other a spirited American bride, but behind closed doors, their paradise honeymoon would spiral into a deadly nightmare that no one saw coming. The wedding took place on a private wooden deck stretching over calm turquoise water, surrounded by distant mountains that looked painted onto the sky. Everything about the ceremony felt carefully arranged to create a picture-perfect moment. Soft music played from hidden speakers, flower petals floated on the surface of the lagoon, and guests whispered about how lucky Emily Carter was to marry Arjun Malhotra, a man known across Bora Bora for his wealth and charm. Arjun stood confidently in a simple white outfit that matched the setting, while Emily wore a lightweight gown that moved gently in the warm island breeze. To everyone watching, it looked like the beginning of a fairy tale life. The guests believed the couple was deeply happy, especially because Emily's smile never faded. No one could sense the quiet tension in her eyes or the way she kept glancing at the surroundings as if studying every detail. Arjun, proud and calm, seemed completely in control, guiding the ceremony with a relaxed charm that made people admire him even more. Behind him stood a team of resort staff who treated him with unusual respect, almost fear, though most guests did not notice. They were more focused on the breathtaking view and the luxurious celebration. After the vows, the couple posed for photographs near the edge of the water, where a small boat decorated with tropical flowers waited for them. The resort's guests cheered, convinced they were witnessing love at its purest. Emily leaned on Arjun's shoulder, and for a moment the atmosphere felt completely peaceful. Yet deep inside, she sensed that entering Arjun's world came with risks no one else could see. As the sun began to set, painting the sky orange and gold, the perfect wedding ended. But for Emily, the real story was just beginning. Before the wedding, Emily had already begun looking deeper into Arjun's life, long before he ever suspected anything. As a travel blogger, she often researched destinations thoroughly, and at first her interest in the resort came from curiosity. But while preparing a feature on luxury island properties, she noticed strange gaps in the resort's public information. Financial reports were incomplete, reviews from former employees disappeared within days, and news articles about previous accidents at the property were oddly difficult to access. What began as a simple investigation slowly turned into something far more serious. Emily suspected that the resort was being used for activities unrelated to tourism. Her instincts sharpened when she found archived online posts mentioning sudden staff disappearances, unexplained nighttime deliveries, and confidential guests who stayed off record. The deeper she looked, the more convinced she became that Arjun's business was hiding dangerous secrets. This discovery planted the idea of documenting everything, not for fame, but for protection and truth. Emily decided that if she ever visited the resort again, she would collect solid evidence. Knowing she would soon marry Arjun gave her a rare opportunity. She purchased small audio recorders that could blend into everyday objects. She practiced placing them discreetly, learning how to hide them in vents, behind picture frames, and inside personal items. She created a secure cloud account that automatically uploaded every recording. No one around her, not even her closest friends, knew about her plan. When she finally arrived at the resort as Arjun's bride, she carried not only excitement but a quiet determination. Every step she took after the wedding was part of a larger mission. She pretended to be relaxed, but inside she was focused. With each hidden device she placed, she felt she was getting closer to the truth she feared but needed to uncover. Emily moved through the resort each day with the calm confidence of a newlywed enjoying her honeymoon, but every moment had a second purpose. She made sure her actions appeared natural, blending sightseeing with subtle observation. While other guests admired the scenery, Emily paid closer attention to details others ignored. She noticed that some workers avoided walking near certain storage areas, and a few seemed fearful whenever a senior staff member passed by. Their tense expressions hinted at something hidden beneath the resort's polished surface. She explored the grounds slowly, taking mental notes of the layout. Behind the main villas, she discovered a path that led to a secluded dock rarely used by tourists. Late at night, she often heard the muffled sound of engines in the distance. At first, she assumed they were boats returning from fishing trips, but she soon realized these movements happened at odd hours, long after most staff had gone to rest. On one night, unable to sleep, she stepped onto the villa's balcony and saw two workers guiding an unmarked crate onto a small boat. They moved quickly, with urgency rather than routine. During the days, Emily spent time wandering through reception hallways, restaurants, and service corridors. She positioned herself near staff-only doors, listening for anything helpful. The recordings she collected captured fragments of rushed conversations, mentions of shipments, warnings to keep quiet, and heated arguments about someone wanting to quit. Though the phrases were incomplete, they added to her growing suspicion. Each evening, she returned to the villa and reviewed the audio files, organizing them carefully. The cloud account stored everything automatically, giving her a sense of safety. Still, she felt a quiet unease growing inside her. The more evidence she gathered, the more she understood the danger she was walking into. The paradise around her felt beautiful on the surface but deeply unsettling underneath. Long before Emily ever met Arjun, people on the island whispered stories about his family, especially about the mysterious fate of his older brother, Kabir. Emily had come across these stories while doing her early research, but during her honeymoon she dug deeper, trying to understand the past that shaped the man she had married. Old digital newspapers mentioned Kabir as the original owner of the resort, known for his ambition and big plans to expand across multiple islands. He was described as charismatic but reckless, someone who wanted rapid success no matter the cost. Then, one year, he suddenly disappeared during what was reported as a solo boating trip. A violent storm, the articles claimed, had swept him away. The authorities never recovered a body, and the case was closed quickly. Emily found it strange how little investigation had taken place. Normally, a high-profile disappearance on a luxury island would attract heavy media attention, yet the report stopped abruptly after just a few days. Even more curious was how Arjun stepped into ownership almost immediately, taking full control of the resort's finances, land, and operations. Archived forums that she uncovered through cached versions hinted at tension between the brothers and suggested they often disagreed about money. Some posts even mentioned that Kabir had been planning to expose internal problems within the business before he vanished. While walking through the resort, Emily noticed a small office locked at all times. A faded nameplate revealed Kabir's name, left untouched for years. Staff avoided the area, and when Emily passed nearby, she saw fear in their expressions. These subtle reactions suggested that Kabir's disappearance was not simply an accident. The more Emily learned, the more she believed Arjun might be connected to a darker history than anyone realized. On a quiet morning, sunlight filtered gently through the villa's glass walls as resort staff moved through their routine tasks. Emily had left early to capture sunrise footage, leaving her belongings scattered across the dressing table. A housekeeper entered to tidy the room, paying little attention at first. She wiped the counters, folded towels, and arranged Emily's makeup items. While reaching for a fallen bottle near the sink, she accidentally bumped Emily's toiletry bag, sending a few items rolling onto the floor. Among them was a tiny device with a small blinking light that immediately drew her attention. Confused, the housekeeper picked it up, unsure of what it could be. It didn't resemble a beauty product or a travel gadget. Unsure whether it was dangerous, she reported it to a maintenance technician who happened to be servicing a nearby villa. The technician inspected the object more closely and quickly recognized it as an audio recorder. The discovery startled him, and he knew he needed to take it straight to Arjun. Arjun received the device with mild irritation at first, thinking it belonged to a careless tourist. But the blinking detail unsettled him. He turned it over, noticing tiny scratches around the microphone opening. When he pressed a small button, he heard a soft playback of voices, his own staff discussing late-night operations. His expression darkened instantly. This wasn't a random object. It was placed intentionally. He felt a cold wave of fear wash through him as he considered the possibilities. If this recorder was hidden in the villa, then others might exist elsewhere. Emily, who appeared so gentle and trusting, might be more observant than he ever imagined. Arjun realized that the threat wasn't coming from outside forces or competitors, it was coming from inside his own home, from the woman he had just married. Arjun waited until Emily left the villa again before taking action. His usually calm expression had hardened, and his thoughts raced as he considered what else she might have hidden. Without alerting anyone outside his closest circle, he instructed a small group of trusted staff to sweep the villa thoroughly. They moved with precision, searching the room inch by inch while trying not to disturb anything that would alert Emily later. What began as a routine inspection quickly turned into a shocking discovery. Behind a decorative vase near the living room window, a second recorder was found. Another was hidden deep inside an air vent, secured with a small piece of tape. A third was tucked behind a framed island photograph. Each one contained hours of audio files, and each carried evidence of private conversations that were never meant to be heard by anyone outside Arjun's inner circle. The staff placed the devices on the table, their hands shaking slightly, afraid of how Arjun might react. Arjun listened to a few fragments, and his face grew pale. The recordings captured discussions about offshore accounts, discreet transactions, and meetings that were never officially documented. These were the types of conversations he always kept off record. Realizing that Emily had been gathering evidence since her arrival, he felt a mix of anger and betrayal tighten his chest. He had believed she married him out of love, yet she had been working against him the entire time. His mind shifted quickly from shock to strategy. He checked the villa's network activity from his private office and saw data transfers that confirmed his worst fear: Emily had been uploading files daily to an external storage account. Destroying the devices would no longer be enough. The information was already outside the resort's control. Arjun felt trapped, and the sense of power he always maintained over his world began to slip away. Emily returned to the villa that evening feeling a mixture of exhaustion and satisfaction. She had spent the afternoon filming distant coral gardens, gathering peaceful footage that perfectly balanced the tension she felt inside. The sunset painted the sky in deep shades of orange and pink, and for a moment she allowed herself to relax, believing she had finally collected enough evidence to start shaping her documentary. She opened her laptop and organized all her recordings into labeled folders, careful to back everything up. Each file felt like a small victory, proof that her instincts had been right from the beginning. She typed notes for her opening episode, outlining the suspicious activity she had observed throughout the week. The cloud drive pinged softly as it synced new uploads. Emily didn't notice how unusually slow the network had become or how certain files took longer to process. She assumed the resort's connection was simply overloaded by guests enjoying their evening. She had no idea that Arjun, from his private office, had already accessed her account. He had used the resort's advanced system monitoring tools to trace her uploads and break into her storage. What he found confirmed every dark suspicion he had formed earlier that day. Arjun read her notes in silence, his expression tightening with each paragraph. She had described him as unpredictable and dangerous, a man whose wealth came from shadow operations hidden behind luxury tourism. She even mentioned Kabir's mysterious disappearance and the possibility of internal corruption. Emily's documentation left no room for escape. Arjun understood that once these files were released, his empire would crumble and the authorities would have enough evidence to build a strong case against him. As Emily finished organizing everything, she felt relieved for the first time since arriving on the island. She believed she was finally prepared and safe. But outside the villa, the atmosphere felt heavier than usual. The waves seemed quieter, the air strangely thick. Emily sensed only a slight unease, unaware that her work had pushed Arjun beyond fear and into a dangerous, irreversible desperation. The next morning began with an unsettling calm that spread across the resort like a heavy blanket. Guests wandered toward the breakfast area, enjoying the clear sky and gentle breeze. No one questioned Emily's absence at first. Honeymoons often meant late mornings and private time. Arjun appeared composed, greeting staff and visitors with his usual polite manner, but beneath his controlled expression, his thoughts stayed fixed on the night before. He had barely slept, pacing the villa grounds and calculating the steps he believed he needed to take to protect everything he had built. By mid-morning, a few guests casually asked why Emily wasn't joining the day's activities. Arjun responded with a steady voice, explaining that she had left early for a solo hike along one of the scenic trails. He said she was collecting wildlife footage and preferred the quiet hours before sunrise. The staff accepted his explanation without question, though several of them exchanged uneasy glances. They had noticed unusual movements the previous night, Arjun's private security team gathering near the restricted dock, lights flickering across the shoreline, and hurried footsteps moving between the trees. When Emily still had not returned by noon, Arjun initiated a search effort. He insisted that his personal security team handle it, claiming they were more familiar with the terrain. The team spread across the island, making sure to avoid areas that would raise suspicion. By late afternoon, they announced that they had found footprints leading toward a rugged cliffside. According to their report, the trail ended abruptly near loose rocks overlooking deep ocean water. As the sun began to set, Arjun delivered the news to select staff members. He claimed that Emily had likely slipped and fallen during her hike. No body was recovered, and the ocean currents were blamed for the lack of evidence. Guests reacted with shock and sympathy. Staff lowered their heads, unsure whether to believe the story or fear the truth hidden behind it. The disappearance was quickly labeled an accident, but the uneasy silence that followed hinted at something far more sinister. Authorities from both the United States and French Polynesia became involved as soon as Emily's family demanded a formal inquiry. The sudden disappearance of a newlywed on a luxury island made international headlines, forcing local officials to take the case seriously. Investigators began by collecting basic information, timelines, staff reports, guest statements, but quickly realized that many details seemed too neatly arranged. The hiking route Arjun mentioned had no recent visitor records, and the search conducted by his private security lacked proper documentation. Something felt carefully controlled. When investigators accessed Emily's digital accounts, the case shifted dramatically. Her cloud storage revealed hundreds of audio files organized into dated folders. The recordings captured quiet background noises, whispered conversations among staff, and snippets involving secret deliveries. Some of the most alarming clips included Arjun discussing undisclosed accounts and urgent shipments meant to bypass official procedures. There were also recordings of employees expressing fear of being watched, along with mentions of individuals who had resigned suddenly and never returned to collect their final pay. The investigators studied Emily's written notes, which outlined her theory that the resort operated as a front for illegal financial activities. Her files included screenshots, observations about late-night boat movements, and references to Arjun's mysterious inheritance after Kabir's disappearance. Each piece strengthened a troubling narrative. Emily had uncovered something dangerous, and her disappearance happened at the exact moment she gathered enough evidence to expose it. Authorities confronted Arjun with their findings, but he denied everything, insisting Emily had misunderstood his business operations. Yet several workers came forward anonymously, sharing details about deleted security footage and orders they received the night Emily vanished. Their statements aligned closely with Emily's recordings. Slowly, a clearer picture emerged, one in which her disappearance was no accident, but the result of someone desperate to silence her before the truth reached the world. The mounting evidence quickly left Arjun with little room to maneuver. Emily's recordings, combined with the testimonies of nervous staff, painted a chilling portrait of his actions in the days leading up to her disappearance. Investigators discovered that several surveillance cameras around the villa had been disabled the night she vanished, and the logs showed that the deletion coincided with Arjun's direct orders. Divers sent to inspect the nearby waters recovered fragments of weighted fabric tangled in underwater rocks near the private dock, suggesting that someone had attempted to conceal a body. The details were gruesome, yet they provided critical clues that connected Arjun to the crime. The public revelation of the recordings shook the resort's reputation to its core. Guests who had once marveled at the luxury property now questioned the hidden realities behind its polished facade. Media coverage intensified, bringing international attention to Emily's story and the dangerous environment she had unwittingly entered. Pressure mounted from both legal authorities and Emily's family, demanding justice. Employees who had once feared speaking out now felt safer revealing the extent of Arjun's manipulation, secretive financial dealings, and control over staff. Confirming the suspicions Emily had quietly documented. Authorities moved quickly. Arjun was arrested under multiple charges, including obstruction of justice, tampering with evidence, and the suspected murder of his wife. His accounts were frozen, and the resort was temporarily shut down pending further investigation. Investigators were determined to piece together every detail from Emily's recordings and the testimonies of those who had witnessed irregular activity. Her work, once private and secret, had become the key to unraveling a dangerous web of deceit and crime. Though Emily could no longer speak for herself, her recordings ensured that the truth survived. Her meticulous documentation exposed Arjun's actions, revealed the dark history of the resort, and provided justice for those silenced by fear. The paradise she had entered became a site of tragedy, but her courage transformed it into a source of revelation, holding the guilty accountable and preventing the same fate from befalling anyone else.